Hi everybody and welcome. Something a bit different today. I'm going to be doing my first ever reaction video. Now, although the Beatles Abbey Road 29 remix has been out now for just over a week, I've still not had a chance to listen to it yet, because as soon as it came out and I did that unboxing video on the 27th of September, I did two big festival gigs, then I went straight on holiday, and then I came back and did another gig, and then I was back to work this week. And so I've just not had a chance to listen to it yet, apart from once on vinyl on the day it came out. So I'm going to do my first digital listen of this album in full now. And I'm inviting you, if you wish to play it along with me on your system at home. I can't play it over this video because this video will get taken straight down if I do that. But in a moment, I'm going to press play on the first song. I'm going to listen to it, give my reaction to it as I hear the digital version of the new 29 remix for the first time. So let's give it a go. You're very welcome to join along with me. I will, for anybody who wants to do this on vinyl, I will pause at the end of I Want You, She's So Heavy, give you a chance to flip your record over if you want to. So I'm going to put my headphones on and I'm going to press play in 3, 2, 1, go. Bit more volume, I think. Immediately it's clear. It sounds newer. I mean, it was always a good mix anyway. It was always a good mastered album. But yeah, it just sounds more modern now. I still hear some hiss, which is good because it means that they've not used de-hissing technology that can get rid of other things. Now, one thing I'm really interested in, the one play that had on the vinyl when it came out, when the chorus comes in a second and it you know, come together right now over me, and the guitar comes in, it was amazing. So I'm interested to hear how that sounds in a moment on the digital version. Coming up to it soon. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's nice. I'm pretty sure they've lifted that guitar in the mix there. That was really nice. So again, later on in the song, what I'm interested to hear is, I noticed on the vinyl version that the last time it does that guitar intro on Come Together Right Now Over Me, it was a lot quieter on the vinyl, on the third version, so we'll see how that goes anyway. Again, really nice. Sounds like they put that guitar a little bit towards on the left hand side rather than it being sort of completely dead centre. I wonder how many people are hearing this album for the first time with the publicity it's had over the last couple of weeks. There could be some real treats out there for people if they've not heard this album before, but this is probably, with the younger generation, I think this is one of the most famous Beatles songs anyway, so probably no great surprises here for them anyway. Cheers. Let's see what that third time's like. Is it suppressed like it was on the vinyl? A little... that was pretty good. That's interesting. Definitely on the vinyl, that third one sounds quieter to me. I don't usually drum in public. I don't usually drum at all. So yeah, this is sounding nice. I'm liking this as a good start. So we've got something coming up in a moment. Of course, that was one of the ones that was released ahead of time. The Beatles publicised that one ahead, so I've sort of heard that one a little bit, but just to clarify for anybody wondering, the digital version, it's in my iTunes, but it's a lossless version, no compression at all, so it's not MP3s or anything I'm listening to. So we'll see if there's we can hear a benefit there of listening to the full digital version. So nothing drastically different there. I mean, it sounds nice, it sounds clean and good, but it's very faithful, I think, to the original. Nothing outrageous anyway, difference. Oh. That's nice. I'm turning it up, I'm loving this. I don't know whether you can hear this bleeding through the headphones or not, so it might give you an idea of where I'm up to. This reminds me a little bit of what they did with a little help from my friends on the Sgt. Pepper remix a couple of years ago, where the bass was definitely enhanced because it's almost like a lead bass. It's such a great bass line, and of course this is a fantastic song anyway, absolute classic. But Paul really pulled out a magnificent bass line on this. Oh, those strings. Yeah, they've done a beautiful job making those strings sound lush and modern. Oh, when he goes, "My love grow," that sounded really clear there. It's nice. Such a powerful middle section of that song. Was it just me, or did that lead guitar sound a little bit sort of as though it was cracking up a little bit? I might have to go back to the original afterwards and yeah, that sounds on there. It just sounded a bit like, you know, when if the gain's too loud and something starts to break up a little bit, it just sounded a bit like that. Different to how I remember it. I love this cup. That vocal sounds so fresh and new. 50 years ago that was recorded, it's incredible. Oh, the strings are so high in the mix there, that's nice. Dum doo 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 doo. Lovely. Lovely. I'm expecting that to be one of the highlights. They've really just, I mean, they've polished that. Beautiful. Maxwell! Come on, Maxwell! Are you Maxwell Silverhammer fans out there? Let me know. I think it's just a fun song. It's, you know, I want enjoyment from a song, and that's what I get from this. It's fun. Such a clear vocal again. They've really cleaned these vocals up. It's very bright. It's, you know, like quite a trebly sound there. Not unpleasant, but I certainly wouldn't want that right throughout the whole album. I I think a bit like Come Together, this sounds quite faithful to the original. I mean, it's certainly different. They've certainly cleaned it up, and it certainly sounds fresh and alive, but still in a faithful way to the original. Nice backing vocals there. They've really set those backing vocals sort of, it feels like it's coming out from the back of my head rather than from the ears. But nice. Yeah, this is nice. Again, yeah, it's not radically different, but it's alive. Oh yeah, Maxwell Must Go Free on the backing vocals. Have perked them up nicely. Nice. I noticed in the book, in the CD version, it seemed to suggest that the anvil, Bang Bang, was being played by Ringo. Now, I've always been led to believe it was Mal Evans playing that, so I don't know if they found new information to suggest it wasn't Mal, or whether there's a mistake in the book. I need to look into that, but if anybody's got any thoughts or knowledge on that, let me know in the comments. Lovely. Now, oh darling, very interested to hear this. Yeah, because when on the vinyl play that I did, this was a highlight. Well, it's not my favourite song on the album by any means, never has been. But what they did to it just, oh, those backing vocals, yes. Giles Martin, who of course will never see this video, but if he did, Giles and Sam O'Kell, who certainly does probably a lot of the actual mixing, you smashed this one out of the park. Thank you. Those oohs in the background. I've got a theory about this song, if I can talk over the record for a minute. I think this is a great example of a Paul McCartney song that, had it come 2 or 3 years later and been a Wings song, it would not have the reputation that it does as a Beatles song. But if you'd have brought in its place something else, a great Wings song that maybe doesn't get its due, and put it in place of this, that song, by virtue of it suddenly being a Beatles song, would get much higher praise. And the one song I'm thinking of in particular is Get on the Right Thing from Red Rose Speedway. Sorry, I'm just listening and enjoying this. If Get on the Right Thing had been on this album in place of this, that would be regarded as a classic because it's the Beatles, because it's on Abbey Road. But because it's shoved down in a Wings album 3 years later, I don't think it gets the recognition it deserves. And how would Oh Darling be regarded if it was just a Wings track? I don't know. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but that's a thought that I've often had about this song. This sounds amazing. I'm just going to shut up for a minute and enjoy this. I love the outtake of this. So I have had a chance to listen to the outtakes 2 or 3 times. And the story has always been how Paul McCartney practiced singing this, because you can't just suddenly pull this out of the bag. But he practiced it over several days until he was able to work himself up to be able to do this. And hearing one of those earlier versions where he sort of nearly blasts it, but then he holds back, or he has a try and he can't quite get it because he's not trained his voice yet. It's really interesting to hear that, where it's a story that we've heard for decades, but hearing that in action, and he gets himself over the period of those few days to be able to do this. Little Richard. That is the winner so far in terms of what the remix has done for the song. For me, that's the winner so far. Octopus's Garden. Come on, Ringo. Yes! Ringo's voice just hits you like that. Octopus's Garden or Yellow Submarine? Which is your favourite Ringo nautical song? Let me know. I'm going for this. And I still absolutely love what they did with this song on the Love album. Back in, what, 2006? Incredible. That sounds great. Do you know what? From 2009 onwards, from the remasters and what's happened since, Ringo has been such a big winner. Things like Act Naturally and Honey Don't on the 2009 remasters were some of the ones for me that sounded so much better than they had done before. This does as well. And going back, how long ago was it? 3-4 years or so, to the 8 Days a Week Live at the Hollywood Bowl album. Boys, that's on there, obviously sung by Ringo, is by far my favourite song on the album. He just absolutely stormed it. So Ringo's getting a lot of love. Beatle Ringo's getting a lot of love from me in the last few years, and I am going to start listening to his solo career a bit more soon. Oh yeah. Can you tell I'm enjoying this? How much fun must they have had making this? It's a brilliant song. This remix is starting to cook now. Oh Darling and Octopus's Garden have been brilliant. Oh, here we go. This should be fun. Remember, I'm going to pause at the end of this song for if anybody is playing along, which you're very welcome to do, give you a chance to flip that vinyl at the end of this. Have they added a bit of reverb onto those drums there? Again, I might need to go back and compare. Clear. Again, going back to the version on the Sessions album that I've listened to 2 or 3 times now. That's a real highlight, is that, with John being told that they need to keep the noise down because it's late at night and they've had complaints for the neighbours. Who's complained? And then Paul saying something about, well, we shouldn't live in such a rubbish neighbourhood. And they decided to just do one more loud one. Billy's organ there, is it Hammond organ? That's sounding nice. There's a big sound like a finger click there that I don't remember hearing before. Me talking isn't stopping me listening to this because I can't hear myself. There could be nothing coming out of my mouth for all I know. I can't hear it at all. It's another fantastic bass line from Paul. Yeah, Billy Preston. Have they maybe, I don't know whether they kicked him up in the mix or not, made it more prominent, but yeah. You know, Paul McCartney, he never slacked off with his bass lines on other people's songs, did he? He was always very, very generous with his bass lines, whether it's this or something, or Hey Bulldog, Old Brown Shoe, Taxman. I wonder if sometimes the pressure was off him a little bit when it wasn't his song. Maybe when it was his song, he was, I don't know, was he thinking a bit too much about getting it as exactly as he wanted it? I'm not knocking the bass lines on his own songs, but some of his best ones seem to be other people's songs where maybe he was just a bit freer, a bit more liberated to concentrate on it. I don't know, just a thought. Yeah, that organ again. Dum, dum, dum. It's just, this is not a 50-year-old recording. This is ridiculous. I love how the vibe changes there. You know what? They might have been ready to split up here, but musically, there's so much more to give. This is not a band that sounds like it's on its last legs. Just heard somebody shouting something in the background there. Sounded a bit like Paul, don't know what it was. Here we go. 3 minutes of this now. Progressively getting louder. You know, in the hundreds of times I've listened to this album, I still think I have never managed to know to the exact split second when this song is going to finish. It always slightly takes me by surprise. It might be that I thought there was another one round to go, or that I thought it was going to come a couple of seconds early, but I've never got it bang on. So I've been reading recently and hearing lately about how possibly the plan originally was to have the two sides swapped of Abbey Road, and that this would have been the second side, and that hard stop at the end would have been the end of the album. That would have been interesting. I don't know whether I would have preferred that or not, hard to say. But well, what a way to end an album that would have been. Just starting to get that. I don't know what that sound is, but that sound that's always there for that last minute and a half or so, that gets louder and louder, it's started coming in now. I wonder how long this went on for in the studio when they were playing this. Did Did it fizzle out just after the hard stop? Did it go on for ages? I'm not sure. I've got about a minute left of this, and I will pause it for a moment. Give you my thoughts on side A while we're at it before we kick off again. Eric Clapton's Let It Grow always reminds me of this. Obviously a bit of a, not quite as heavy as this, but this riff that goes on at the end always reminds me of that on Eric's song. Oh, it's building. I was going to go about a second later with a big stop, and I just flipping missed it again. Right, I've paused. That's the end of side A. Really enjoyed that, as you could probably tell. It seemed quite faithful at the start with Come Together, then Something, the strings, the bass sounded beautiful. They've really sort of made it, it's almost like it's playing in a church in a big hall. Oh Darling and Octopus's Garden, I think, were the two highlights for me there on that side. Both just sounding beautiful. I Want You She's So Heavy sounded great, and I think the Hammond organ seems clearer to me. But other than that, I wouldn't say it sounded massively different to me to what I'm familiar with. So I'm ready to crack on with side B. Let's not mess around. Let's have a bit of George. Are we ready? I love the video that they've done for this. It's just loads of photos from the sessions, and it reminds me a little bit of the old Free as a Bird video, with lots of different references to things and looking back. Ooh, when those backing vocals kick in, lovely. Yeah. This is another song that if you look at Spotify, YouTube and such like, this is one of the most popular songs that's played by probably by the younger generation these days in terms of Beatles songs. This is really nice. You know, I always knew this album on CD. It's only about 3 years ago that I got hold of a vinyl version of it for the first time, and I'd never heard it on vinyl. So I was always familiar with I Want You She's So Heavy, hard stop, about a 2-second gap, and then the acoustic guitar. This comes in, and I loved that. That's the only way I knew the album, and I loved how it just went massive, 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 stop, start really quietly. And when I heard it on vinyl for the first time, I lost that, because, you know, I had to flip the record over and start again, and I had about a 30-second gap between. And I didn't like it, and I've still not got used to it. I like going straight from one to the other. This is great. Very bright on the vocals again, quite trebly, but nice. It's just recorded so well, engineered so well. I mean, I've got a lot of other albums from that period that just don't sound anything like as fresh as this. And I don't just mean on this version, I mean on the original mix of the album as well. Beautiful. Well, I did a Beatles album ranking video a few months ago. I'll put a link up if anybody wants to have a look at that. And I think I might have said in that this sort of this second side of Abbey Road, and particularly when the medley gets fully going, to me it's the greatest thing that's been put on record ever. And where do you class it as beginning? Do you class it now with Because? Do you class it as when he starts Golden Slumbers? Or this to me is the start of it. Be interested to hear what the vocals sound like on this. A lot of potential for them to really, really come through. Yeah, nice. I also loved what they did with this on the Love album. Again, I'm a massive fan of the Love album, but how this starts just vocals only with a bit of birds chirping in the background, and then it coming in with that the backwards crash from was it the backwards crash from A Day in the Life? It's hard to think of another song when you're listening to one, isn't it? And then Get Back comes in, brilliant. But this sounds lovely. This cup of tea is not going to last till the end of this album. So I know this song properly finishes and You Never Give Your Money starts, so it's not strictly part of the medley, but yeah, it does feel like the start of it to me. Where does the medley start for you? Let me know. It's gorgeous. There's been some great harmonies bands, but you know, they're up there when they're doing stuff like this. They are up there with the best. It's like Beach Boys, Our Prayer G from Smile. I've never really thought of that before, but it's certainly the nearest the Beatles ever got to something like that. Anyway. You never give me your money. What's going through Paul's mind to bring a song like this with these lyrics that are just so bitter against what's happening with the Beatles and bringing it into a Beatles recording session? I must admit, when I first heard this song in isolation from the rest of the album, and I assumed it was a solo song, because I thought, you know, you write this when you've left the band. But yeah, beautiful. What a voice. What a voice he's got. If he had have held this back, if he thought that he couldn't do this with the Beatles because of the content, it would have been great on Ram, don't you think? This would fit so well on Ram. That honky-tonk piano that we've just been having, I thought maybe could have been a bit higher in the mix, but I'm nitpicking. They've done wonderful things with the backing vocals on this album, is one of my overriding impressions. I wonder if they were, maybe were they reduced? I don't know whether they had to do any bounce downs on this. What were they working on? Was it 8-track, this album? I'm not sure, but I'm not sure whether they had to sort of maybe bounce anything down because of lack of tracks. If they did have to do that, then I wonder if now they've unpacked it, maybe that's why the backing vocals just sound so great, because they've had a lot more freedom to do things with them on this remix. Maybe. Now, on my vinyl play, all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bits I noticed seem to be a bit more playful, maybe, than the original mix. I don't know if there was other things going on there, so I'm about to find out. Does it sound different to what I know and love? At first, it sounds a bit higher in the mix anyway. I think they're bringing. They're bringing out parts of the. I think they're bringing parts of the guitar out there that weren't so noticeable before. Pretty sure they are, unless I'm just listening a lot more closely than I would normally. Sun King. A lot of bottom end on this, sounds really nice. It just sounds big. It's a big sound. I mean, it sounds like you're in a cathedral or something. So if it's similar to the other songs, I'm expecting a big, when the vocals come in, for that to sound huge. Let's see. Well, I wouldn't say huge, but very nice. Oh, that bit of is Billy Preston on this song, or is somebody else playing that? But the organ there, it was like it was a bit like the sort of church organ that you hear on the on Let It Be. On, I think, especially is it the album version? Just not familiar with that being so prominent in a mix as it was there. I'm looking forward to the drum beat that goes into Mean Mustard, because you want that to have some oomph. Soon find out. Yeah, there was a nice bit of bass thud on that. Oh, this sounds good. Yes! Tambourine. Now, I've listened to the long one, the medley that's got Mean Mr. Mustard, Her Majesty, Polythene Pam. I'll tell you what I think of that. I like the transition from Mean Mr. Mustard to Her Majesty. I think that works fine. But I think going from Her Majesty back into Polythene Pam, it loses completely the impact that Mean Mr. Mustard to Polythene Pam has, because that is just such a fantastic transition, and you've lost that. So they did the right thing, in my opinion, in taking that out. Now, I did notice on the vinyl version, when it comes into Polythene Pam, it didn't oomph in as much as I thought it might be. Technical term there, it didn't oomph in. Let's see what happens here. I want it to... That was alright, actually. Yeah. Well, this album's getting seriously good now. That sounded really good to me, the way that came in. I'll maybe have to do the vinyl on headphones and see how that compares. Get a does of her in jaboos and kilts. She's killed a dillo when she's chested the heels. She's a girl, and it's the use of the words she can say. It's classically built. Just going back to Mean Mr. Mustard, I'm looking forward to hearing the full story of who Mr. Mustard was in just over 2 weeks' time, when I go and see Mark Lewison doing his Hornsey Road tour, the story of Abbey Road, and apparently that is a section of his show. I've seen the newspaper article that describes it, the original article, but I'm looking forward to his version of the story. Here we go, one of my favourite moments of the album. Love that transition. Just so joyful. I think over the last 2 or 3 minutes, it sounded great and full and lively and everything. Nothing massively different to what I'm used to. But it's just alive, like all of it is. It's got some oomph as this, hasn't it? The way the bass and the drums are working together, it's really pushing this along beautifully. Again, they've really brought the backing vocals out nice on this. Okay, we're nearly at the end of this song now. We're about to get into, if you like, the last part of the medley in a moment. It's going to kick off with Golden Slumbers. So, I'll try not to get emotional, but I sometimes do. At the back end of this record, it's just the best. Oh, that voice. Again. The way they've got in the mix his voice set against the strings there is very nice. When my daughter was a baby, I used to sing this to her as a good night song, so always brings back happy memories of that time. Oh. Magnificent voice this man had. I think they've brought the strings up in the mix again, and that sounds really nice. I don't know about you, but on this and on the original mix as well, it's always sounded to me like the prominent voice is Ringo's. And it probably isn't. I mean, I'm sure he's in there, but it's just always struck me as like a little mini Ringo song. And I'm probably completely wrong on that. And I accept that I'm probably completely wrong on that, but I just always thought that. With that sinking of the orchestra. Let's see what that big sort of brass and orchestral strike's like. Yeah! Yeah! That's good. Ooh, that kicked in nice. Come on, Ringo, go for it. Come on. Yeah, that's good. A lot of presence there. I'm liking that. I would argue that it's probably quite compressed, was that drum sound, but still plenty of oomph. But it does feel as though it was maybe a little bit held back. George, Paul, he's over this side. John's in the middle. That's interesting. Right, so they're going George, Paul. Will it be John in the middle again? Yeah. I'll have to check the original mix, see if that's as prominent. George again. Paul. And John. One second. Yeah. So what I'm noticing throughout here is that bit just there. You Never Give Me On Money. Maxwell Silverhammer. Those parts where there's a Paul McCartney vocal that's very prominent. They've really, really got that sounding good. That's a lovely orchestral finish there. We've got a few seconds until the national anthem to Her Majesty. This is really good. Let's see what they've done with this. Yeah, they've done what they did originally. Starts over there. He's over here now. He's coming. He's coming. He's about here now. And he's over here. And that's it. We're done. Well, as you can probably tell, I really, really enjoyed that. There was one or two things that took me a little bit by surprise that I don't think I was 100% gushing about it. I think I said where there was little bits that I thought, okay, yeah, fair enough. But overall, I'm really loving that. What I'm going to have a think about is how do I think about this compared to the 2017 Sgt. Pepper, the 2018 White Album. Yeah, okay. Well, if I had to give an off the cuff think about that, I think this is probably the one that's most faithful to the original album, and certainly sounds the most modern sounding. I think the White Album, there's a case for individually each song on that remix, you could argue, is the best it's ever sounded. But collectively, I don't think the back end of the White Album remix takes me to the dark place that the White Album should take me to. Sgt. Pepper, I think the remix was incredible because it had been squashed down into 4 tracks, and just the freedom that it gave to have clarity on things like the guitar intro to Lovely Rita, I thought sounded amazing. With a Little Help from My Friends was fantastic on that. Within You, Without You, superb. So I think, where do I place this? I'm going to say probably my favourite one so far is probably still Sgt. Pepper at this stage, just because it was so revelatory. Probably this one next, and although I'm putting the White Album third, it doesn't mean I don't still have a lot of great affection for that remix that they did, but that's probably how I would rank it at the moment. So that was something a little bit different from me. I hope you enjoyed that, if there is indeed anybody still watching at this point. If you are, I thank you very much. That's hardcore dedication. More than I probably have a right to deserve. But I will be back soon with more videos, and if you like this, if you like what I do, please consider subscribing to my channel, because that gives me the confidence that it's worth carrying on doing these things. And it means that you get to find out when I publish new videos so you can watch them. So I'm going to stop rambling, I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much. See you later.